this description I just wrote, and I'm thinking, what a hell of a time to be alive. Like, Russia's cutting out gas, brands are gonna die, Kim Kardashian's got a PE firm. Yeah, this is where we're at in 2022. Can't wait to see 2023. Um, Good episode overall. Um, I do like the comments everyone drops over on the actual All In podcast. I was going through those. General consensus is, J. Cal needs to shut the hell up. You can have a nice big glass and shut the hell up. It's the bickering between J. Cal and Sax is tiring. I mentioned this before in other episodes. J. Cal just has to cut Sax off all the time. Granted, Sax is doing his, political BS as well, and he kind of goads J. Cal into it at times. Yeah, man, it's like two guys that would normally get along under any other circumstances, other than hating each other's political beliefs. This is why I just don't talk politics. I don't talk with nobody, right? It's just this is off the table. We're not talking this. It's good friendships and even family get ruined when you mix in politics in this day and age. I hope I'm not mixing the episodes up. I think it was this episode. They were talking about. I caught like a couple back to back here on my autoplay, but they were talking about leaving money on the table about how much money could be made from the podcast, and J. Cal was talking about something along the lines of if we made more money, I could get a plane or something, and then Sax comes back with if you were smarter, you'd have a plane or something. It's that was like locked and loaded, ready to just drop that on his head. So that was pretty funny. Anyways, to get into the meat of the episode here, a lot of focus on just Russia, what's going on in Europe, the natural gas crisis that's not going to happen, it's happening. When you look at it, it seems like everyone with half a brain saw this coming, and Putin's going to. It's like I think a lot of times we sit back and if you listen to the media in the United States, they think like he's some old school war general from 200 years ago, and no, he's strategic. He didn't get to the top by being a complete idiot. He had some kind of end game, and here we go. And we'll find out what happens probably in the next 60 days. I think, Putin knew that at the end of the day, dependency equals, control. If you were ever a teenager and your parents had control over your money and your clothes and your car, you did what they had to say, right? It's we were kids, we all learned that. When Europe's counting on you for 40% of their natural gas or for their 40% of their energy, you're that parent. And he just had that ultimate trump card, and he's throwing that thing down on the table right now. He's going to get what he wanted. Maybe he lost more assets along the way than he wanted, but he's going to get what he wants. There'll be some deal eventually, and the rest of the world is going to deal with it. He knew that before starting this war. The thing Friedberg was saying about the 40% of energy, and you got certain baselines and this and that. Like there's things you can cut back on. Throughout the course of a year, you might be able to sway 10 or 15%. If we're not going to run the air conditioning as much, we're going to trim back on this stuff. It gets to the point when it's 40%, it's too much. It's not like California where they're saying don't run your air conditioner or charge your EV tonight because we don't have enough power. We can tail back on it. There's a baseline. It's like we need this amount of gas to just heat the minimal part of our homes and run our stoves or produce these other goods we need to survive. At 40% is too much. You've hit the tipping point where it sends a whole continent into a complete disaster. You can't just say, don't turn your TV on tonight. It's just too much. And somewhere back in Russia, they ran that math, and they already knew that. So I don't know what you're going to do there. It's, I think Freeberg was saying they're going to essentially be forced to broker a deal. They're going to figure something out. This thing's going to get crazy deep, probably November, December. There'll be some kind of deal. Putin's going to get what he wants. Everyone's going to try to save face. All this money was spent. A bunch of people died. And we'll go on. It's, I want to say one of the guys here was talking about how much money we're probably going to have to pour into Ukraine to get them to accept the deal. And that's something else to think about. I mean, we're cutting billion-dollar checks left and right. What's a few billion more? It's how it seems. They talked about the protests in Europe, and I think it's funny that, I mean, granted, I don't sit around and watch the news all day. I flip through all channels trying to just, find out what's going on. I go through CNBC, Bloomberg, CNN. I'll even stop at Fox to see what CNN's not covering, because that's what it comes down to these days. And you just don't see a tremendous amount of information about what's going on in Europe. And you realize we are the same. We're the victim as everyone else is in terms of whatever the media wants to show us, they want to show us. But Friedberg brought up a couple times the protests in Europe because they're over it. These things went on longer and deeper than they thought it would, and is now affecting everybody. Europe's facing, I think Chamath said, which I think we knew this, we didn't need Chamath to say it. Europe's facing a recession, probably at a bare minimum, on top of a massive energy crisis and civil unrest and all this stuff. And it seems like Europeans want it over. But at times, if you look around the United States, it seems like we want it to keep going. And, later on, someone mentioned Sachs or Chamath talked about Boris talking about, don't take the deal back in, late spring there. Ukraine might have had a way out. And I think they said the UK's goal was we got to weaken Putin. And it's probably similar to what the United States think, but at what cost? It's like you're going to completely, cripple Europe to try to bring down Russia. And again, it seems like a bulk of people want this thing to end, but we have this, other strategy going on to weaken Russia. And man, I'll tell you, the government does not mind using the general public as cannon fodder, is what it comes down to. It's, you get the strategy, but it's like, I think a lot of people didn't sign up for this cost. What else we have here? Chamath had a great point. He's, we're partially here, and I'm kind of ad-libbing / quoting him. An entire continent allowed a 16-year-old girl to dictate an energy policy. And man, that's like line of the year, right? It's, if you remember how polarizing it was when Greta came out, and everyone's like, we got to act, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of, it was a cult-like feeling, and let's put math and science and all this stuff aside and just kind of react on this emotion or this passion or this belief. And it ultimately put a lot of people in a bad position, because you start making energy policy decisions not based on math or logic or economics or supply. And this is what happened. Chamath was saying, we took a passionate speech and message from someone that doesn't really understand, the science or the math or the economics behind the thing. But it's like, you had this figure that was a leader, that was an influencer. And, what's funny to me is we went from, Germany put itself in a bad position. I was reading a story, and they brought it up on, they did bring it up on the pod, about firewood. And I saw an article on Yahoo or something, I don't know, talking about how the, German firewood suppliers were out of firewood, and people cutting down their own trees and shit. It's like, it's 2022 and you're in your backyard harvesting trees to heat your home this winter. Is that an overreaction? We'll see. But you you wanted to push the green energy faster, and now you put yourself in a very vulnerable position to the point where now you got to go burn a bunch of trees, and that seems really counterproductive for what you're trying to achieve for the environment. And this is what happens when we don't make decisions based on logic or math or like anything. We're now going to burn a bunch of trees. It's going to put a bunch of more stuff in the air, and you might have taken 2 steps back from what you're really trying to achieve. Um, Chamath also talks about Trump he warned Germany or he warned Europe about the reliance on Russian gas, natural gas. And they noted on the pod that the German delegation was laughing when Trump spoke. And I'm like, well, who's laughing now, bitch? And the thing is, that probably wasn't even Trump's idea. Someone around Trump, that people that study this stuff all day gave Trump that information. Because I'm sure this is not things Trump sat around thinking about all day. Someone told him this, and then Trump spoke, but you discounted the message because of who was delivering it. And I think that's a problem in life in general. We look at who's delivering the message, and we automatically discount it. Back to the you don't judge a book by its cover. How many millionaires do I know drive 10-year-old cars and dress from clothes from like Sears? It's one of those things that you just need to just stop and listen. And it's either good information or bad information. I think we do that all the time with economists, with professors, a lot of people on TV, influencers. It's we look at someone and say, I'm going to believe it because it's from this person. I'm not going to believe it because it's from this person. And what we need to do is step back, listen to the information, process it, and make our own decision. We have a terrible time of doing that anymore. We look at people that are authoritative and we believe everything they say. And it doesn't seem like that's making the world a better place at the moment. Other times we look at somebody and it's like, well, I don't want to believe them. But, I've seen people that, granted, I wouldn't want to trust 8 out of 10 things they say, but 2 out of 10, they'll say something that makes a lot of sense. And you just got to pay attention to the insight, process the information that's in front of you. If you can't sit back and just synthesize what you're hearing and make the decision for yourself, you're in trouble. But hey, every once in a while something comes true, and this one came true. What else do we have here? Sachs was pointing out, I've had my phone in my hand while I was playing. Usually my phone's just auto playing, I'm listening. But he had some news clips up talking about how, like, headlines. It says he's got the receipts for everything he's saying, where he was kind of backing up how involved we are in the war with, there's people on the ground helping to take out Russian generals, and Ukraine used, intel from us to hit that ship, the Russian ship. And you realize that, I think a proxy war is we're going to send you some money and we're going to send you some weapons. When you're that involved from an intelligence standpoint and a strategy and all this stuff, we are walking so close to the line of saying we're actually in this war against you that it's scary. And if that's what we know, we're probably in it a lot deeper than we think we are. And then does this ultimately set off a war between Russia and the U.S.? And they're going to sit back and say why and for what. And it just seems like, again, it's, do we just like war? Do we just want war? Does it make people rich? Republicans, Democrats, they all like war because everyone just seems to get paid. Not a good feeling, and it seems like the next 3 to 4 months it's going to be a wild ride. What else do we have here? J. Cal talking about, maybe we didn't end up in a war with China because we've done so much business with them. I think he referenced, because we manufacture the iPhone over there and there's so much money involved. Does that really, keep us from going to war? And I was talking to my buddy about this one day. You talk to certain people in America and it's, war with China, war with China, war with China. And it's like, I don't know if China wants a war with anybody for that matter. I think they want power. I think they want influence and they want dominance. But do you think they're gonna like, load up ships and come over here and invade the U.S. where we have like, 3 guns per U.S. citizen or something? Maybe they do that. I just don't see that happening. It's what are we gonna go to war for? We've stuffed their pockets fat, and that's what I was telling my buddy, and that's kind of what they brought up here is, you know, from our own bringing manufacturing over there and our own consumption habits, we, raised 500 million people up out of poverty. We made them rich and we gave them the ability to make the money so they could build up their own military, which we think at the end of the day was a mistake just so we could have some cheaper stuff. That's a whole other conversation. But I think, no one getting paid wants to go to war. And I even think about where I grew up and being on the streets and the different gangs and the drug dealers. If everyone was getting paid, no one was fighting. The only time people started fighting is when, like, someone from this block hooked up with someone's chick from that block, or someone from, this gang might have, like, robbed someone over there, and it starts off a whole thing. Other than that, when everyone's getting paid, everyone shuts the hell up. Everyone just wants to get money. And I kind of look at that's where the world typically is. If you're a government official, you want to stay in power, you want to get made. People just want to get paid and have money. And unfortunately, some people do make more money by going to war. I just don't think China wants to go to war with anybody. They just want to keep building the country. They're going to build their military up. They want to have a tremendous amount of influence. They want power. They want control. But for war, for what? When there's this many nuclear weapons, no one wins. So I thought it was an interesting point that, J. Cal brings up one every once in a while, that just the commerce that we do is, keeps us at bay from going to war. I think even then we wouldn't go to war. Maybe over Taiwan or something. I got a whole other theory on that part. But you look at that, though, it's, we raised up 500 million people. This is my own thought. We raised 500 million people up out of poverty in China through, the manufacturing and the prosperity, all the, industrial manufacturing, the whole world, not just the United States, the whole world brought there. And in the meantime, we made a lot of people go into poverty here because we got rid of the middle class jobs. We got rid of the working class jobs. And then it was a trade off for what? So we could get paper towel cheaper. I should do a whole other episode on that, but something to think about. It's how rich did we make another nation while making a lot of people here poor? Granted, if you look at the stats, people are moving up. Obviously the wealthy, there's more wealthy people. There's more upper middle class. There is more people moving up, but there is a handful of people moving down, and these are the people that probably would have not moved down if we had access to factory jobs. Imagine if we could do both through technology and all these different sectors that generate these high-paying jobs. You had a lot of people moving up into the upper middle class and into the straight-up rich, and at the same time, where almost no one's going backwards unless they want to. We could have had it all. We just don't. What else we have here? Freeberg had a point about no traditional brand will exist in 30 years. And we're talking about Kim K and the private equity, the amount of influence she has, and that, there's a couple good points here, and I'm going to blur them all together. But it's a thought of if you're a consumer good, a CPG type brand, retail, whatever, that if you don't have content, you're dead. And I think he's kind of got a point. The people that have content and some kind of influencer within their company or some kind of brand representative, they can constantly get the word out without having to spend a tremendous amount of money, they're going to win. And, we'll see about that. It's one of those things that they were talking about, Mr. Beast coming out with his burger, and because he had a following, and boom, overnight, their overnight success. My thing is, I tried that burger, and if I was, if I drank a half a bottle of bourbon and I needed a burger at 2 a.m., it would do. But I'm not going out of my way to get that burger again. It's one of those things that I just wanted to try, and I was like, it wasn't that great to me. And so you still have to have a great product. You can't just have the content and the influencer. And then somewhere along the lines here, I think J. Cal said the first Mr. Beast burger was not good. The second one looks like it might be good or it is good. Problem is, you only get one shot most of the time, especially when it comes to food. If you had a bad experience at a restaurant, you don't go back to try it a second time. I'm not trying a second Mr. Beast burger because there's burgers everywhere around here. So I can see where you're going to have a content strategy. You're going to have some kind of influencer attached to your brand. But just because the influencer decides to launch a new product, it doesn't mean it's the best product. And this is where I still think intellectual property and engineering and then having great things are going to end up winning. Does that mean that some influencer can launch a new line of hair soap or shampoo, I mean, and be a market force for 12 months or 18 months as a fad, take some market share? Sure. But in the long run, the bigger brands are probably going to win just because they're probably putting out a superior product. So I can see where these things move in and out, and we're going to be in this constant rotation of something new. But that's how we are anyways. We like fads. We like new stuff. But, it's a good point. And then I think Sachs was talking about, it's a really great point too. On the consumer side, CPG goods, all that type of stuff, there's not enough margin to spend money to acquire a customer. If I'm selling a bottle of shampoo for $12 and, I got 10, 15, 20% margin at the most, you don't have $10 to spend on acquiring a customer. And this is one of those things that you can see where some type of influencer marketing or having a content strategy where you can reach a lot of people without having to spend traditional money on TV or even AdWords is so expensive anymore. On B2B, though, you get away with that. You could have a sales team, and you can afford a sales team to go market the product to other companies, right? You can probably afford the money to spend on digital ads. It's one of those things that it's baked into the cost because there's actually margin on business services. Good lesson there. You can look at, the tech companies will lose money for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, spending hundreds of dollars to acquire one customer, hoping that they start to break even in 5 years. But they have enough margin where that actually makes sense mathematically 3, 4, 5 years down the road. It just doesn't work that way with a lot of consumer goods where you make $1. You can't spend $10, $12 to get a consumer. Good luck with that. So there's actually some pretty good business insights that I caught from this particular episode. Chamath was saying that at the end of the day, you're not going to be funneling money to Google. It's going to go to Kim K to market your thing or some other influencer or some other content team. Put an asterisk on that because he's right. Instead of me paying $100,000 to market something on Google AdWords, I'm gonna go pay Kim K to market it through her outlets, right? Through her distribution channels. The problem is what even she just learned with Instagram is you got these distribution channels and they won't let you distribute. If you've been on Instagram lately, it sucks. I have 55,000 followers that like my writings, and I make a post, and my hardcore fans don't even see it anymore. So Instagram's going to say, hey, you're going to have to pay money to market to the people that follow you, which is crazy, right? I should see the content of the people I'm following. So Chamath's got a point that you may not funnel the money anymore to Google for AdWords. You're going to go to Kim K, but Google, all these tech companies are going to say, okay, well, we got to get the money somehow. So what they're going to do is they're not going to let you get your message out for free anymore. And then you're going to end up right back on AdWords, or you're going to end up spending money with Facebook so you can reach the audience you already had. This is why I think it's important to kind of own your audience. There's a movement right now to where people are trying to get their followers and their fans to their own websites where you can sign up and subscribe there. Maybe you have a Substack. You have an online portal. This is kind of where things are going right now Because what's the point of spending all this time and money to build up this massive social media profile, and then in one flip of the switch, the tech company can say, yeah, you can't reach your followers unless you pay. It's you don't think for 1 minute that all these companies aren't going to do that. You're going to stop spending money on Google AdWords. Good luck, because that's how Google stays alive. We know that. We're not going to let that happen. Let's say it does happen, though. What does that mean for all the tech companies that make all their money from ads? Could you see Google crash in 5 or 10 years if this is really the model? Is that heyday over? That is something to think about. What else do we have here? And then they closed out on ADHD. Chamath was talking about, I think, a video game you can get a prescription for. Don't quote me on that, something like that. And yeah, I've had a few conversations about this, not that, but like ADHD in general, and Adderall, and prescribing the drugs. And I look at kids today, and if you have kids, this makes sense. If you're not around kids, it might not. But kids have so many goddamn toys, it's ridiculous. Where I grew up, we didn't have a lot of cash, so you didn't have a lot of toys. In fact, most of the time you just went outside and you banged sticks in the mud or played sports. You look today, you go over people's homes, and their kids have, the boy might have 100 different cars and this and like unlimited Legos. Like you could literally sit there, and there's not enough time in the day in the next 5 years to play with all these toys. And what you end up watching the child do is they just bounce around every couple minutes from toy to toy to toy. I'm done with this one. Boom. I'm bored with this one. Boom. And they never actually stick with anything. There's no theme. There's no, I'm going to build a garage for this car out of Legos. It's just going on and on and on from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. And then what happens when you get a little bit older and they get an iPad or, they get a phone? Some of these people are on, YouTube or TikTok. What do? I mean, TikTok is constantly shoving down 15-second things down your throat. Social media in general, with Reels on Instagram. Get on YouTube. It's also unlimited content. And it's like you get 1 minute into something, and it's like, I don't like this one. They go to the next one. They go to the next one. There really is no discipline to stay focused on anything. And I'm wondering what effect this has on kids having ADHD at the end of the day. We never teach them how to just stay focused on anything more. We give them unlimited options, and we say, go do whatever you want. And here's a stat that I pulled up. Granted, it's a Google research. It's put an asterisk on this one too, but ADHD diagnosis in the U.S. children ages 4 to 17 increased from 6.1% in 1997-1998 to 10.2% in 2015 and 2016, which, makes me wonder, what is it now? It's probably creeped up some more. I just look at how we raise kids and technology, the endless options of TV, on demand, TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts getting shoved down our throats 15 seconds at a time, the endless amount of toys and options. Even that food, I look at, parents I know, hell, when my mom was home anyways, which wasn't often, this was dinner. She'd throw down a thing of mustacholi and you ate it, and if you didn't eat it, you went to bed hungry. Now it's like, here's the mustacholi, I don't want that. How about we make you an Annie's pizza? Well, I don't want that either. And it's just like, there's no discipline anymore. It's unlimited options for everything all the time. And then we wonder why children can't focus. They're always thinking about the next thing. I'm not happy with this thing. This thing's not perfect. This isn't entertaining. You keep looking for something to fulfill a need. And I think we do that with food. I don't want the mustacholi. I don't want the Annie's pizza. And you eventually end up at, I want a chicken McNugget, right? It's almost like we're never happy because we think if we keep searching, there's going to be something else. Does that reflect the job market? The way people have job hopped in the last few years. We're never running towards something. We always feel like we're running away from something. We think this new destination is going to make us happier. And then we get to the next job and it doesn't. So we go to the next job 9 months later. That doesn't make me happy. We go to the next job 11 months later and it doesn't make us happy. And you're constantly running. It's like, man, is it not goddamn exhausting to be running all the time? We start that as children today, with the toys, with our food, with TV, with everything. And that translates over into how we live our whole life. And we're constantly trying to move on to the next thing. Do people not do that with relationships now? You open your phone up and you're just swiping through. And then like, well, this one doesn't make me happy. I'm going to keep swiping. I'll find somebody else. I'm going to keep swiping until I find... Does any of this sound like a happy life? So, anyways, I'll do more episodes on that. Last comment I caught from Chamath was, I think he was talking about one of his children. I want to say his teacher. One of the teachers said that maybe his kid should go on some type of medication or something. And Chamath's way of processing it was it sounded like the teacher just didn't want to deal with the inconvenience. I mean, look, man, is that not the world we live in right now? If it's an inconvenience, give someone a drug. If it's an inconvenience, do this. We don't want to be inconvenienced with anything anymore. We think there's a pill to fix everything. I just lost 50 pounds. This is the third time in my life I went on a weight loss journey. And it would have been easy to go to the doctor and say, hey, give me some shit to lose weight. When I started dieting and exercising again, I bet 2 or 3 people said, oh, you see that pill on TV that can help you lose weight. And it's like, I don't need a pill to lose weight. What I need to do is stop eating double cheeseburgers for breakfast, and I need to take my ass to the gym. And it's not even funny because, you put the fork down and you exercise and the weight comes off. This isn't rocket science. Not finite mathematics, right? It's calories in and calories out. But many people's first thought was, go get a pill for it. Oh, this kid's, attention's, bouncing all over the place. Your child needs Adderall. There isn't a pill to fix everything. If it just comes down to it because you don't want to be inconvenienced, how bad is that? That's the world we live in now. We don't want to be inconvenienced. We want a pill, or we just want someone else to deal with it. Anyways, that's all I got for this episode. If you got anything that you caught that was interesting, that I didn't catch on the All In podcast, drop a comment below.